The knock on my door that morning wasn't polite. It was the kind of pounding that made walls rattle and hearts race. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing stiff on my porch, their hands resting on their belts, eyes scanning me like I was already guilty. Behind them, a familiar shape lurked, a wide, self-satisfied figure with arms folded, chin lifted, and a smug grin plastered across her face. It was Karen, the HOA president, the tyrant of our quiet neighborhood. Her sunglasses glinted in the sun, though the sky was overcast, and she clutched a thick folder as if it were the holy book of justice. "Sir," one officer began, "we've received a report that you've ignored multiple notices of unpaid community bills and outstanding HOA assessments. We're here to discuss your failure to pay." I blinked, stunned. "Unpaid bills? I don't owe a dime. I've paid everything on time since I moved in." "What are you talking about?" Karen stepped forward, practically shoving her round body between us, her voice shrill with triumph. "Don't play dumb. We've sent you notice after notice. Landscaping fees, streetlight upgrades, beautification charges, you've ignored them all. It's theft from the community. I told you this would happen, and now you'll finally face consequences." The officers looked at her folder, then back at me, their faces unreadable. My blood roared in my ears. She had staged this, twisted paperwork, and dragged cops to my doorstep in an attempt to humiliate me in front of the whole street. My neighbors had started peeking out of windows, gathering in clusters along the sidewalks. Some whispered, some filmed. Karen basked in it, drinking in the attention like a queen executing a traitor. I forced my voice calm. "Officers, if I may, I keep meticulous records of every HOA transaction. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll show you the truth." Karen barked out a laugh. "Oh, please, don't let him stall. He's lying. I'm the HOA president. I have the authority here." She waved the folder like a sword. "It's all here, every overdue bill, every violation. He owes us over $5,000. The arrogance in her tone was gasoline on my fire. I turned, stormed inside, and came back with a locked binder. Years of military service had trained me to document everything, and I had every canceled check, every receipt, every email printed and filed. I spread them across the porch rail, my hands steady even as my heart thundered. The officers leafed through the pages while Karen hovered, her bulk blocking the light, her lips pursed in irritation. One officer frowned, then compared my records to the papers in Karen's folder. His brow furrowed deeper. He whispered to his partner. The partner shook his head. Something wasn't adding up. That's when the twist hit like a grenade. One officer pulled a specific notice from Karen's fold-era water maintenance bill supposedly tied to my property. But the account number didn't match mine. The officer asked, "Mrs. Whitmore, why do these notices have your address listed on the billing line? Not his?" Karen froze, her lips parting soundlessly. That's a clerical error," she stammered. "Don't listen to him. He's manipulating documents." But the officers compared again. Every so-called overdue bill bore her name, her address, her account number. She hadn't brought evidence against Meshed, brought her own unpaid debts, and tried to pin them on me. The crowd of neighbors erupted in whispers. Someone gasped, "Those are hers." Another muttered, "She's been scamming us all this time." Cameras zoomed in, catching every detail. I felt my anger rise like fire, but I kept my voice low and sharp. "So that's what this is, Karen. You dragged cops to my door, tried to shame me in front of everyone, just to cover up the fact that you're the one bleeding this neighborhood dry." Karen's face twisted, sweat dripping down her temples. No. He forged this. He switched them. You can't trust." But the officer cut her off, his tone like iron. "Ma'am, you filed a false police report. That's a crime. You attempted to frame your neighbor with your own debt. Please step aside." Her jaw dropped. "No, you can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." The officer didn't flinch. He turned her around, clicked cold steel cuffs onto her wrists, and read her rights as the crowd gasped, then cheered. Karen struggled, her round body shaking, her voice cracking into a screech. "This is harassment. I demand respect. I run this community." But no one believed her anymore. Not with the evidence in plain sight. Not with her lies unraveling before their eyes. Neighbors filmed her meltdown, some laughing, some shaking their heads in disbelief. For the first time, the queen of intimidation was reduced to what she truly was, a liar caught red-handed. As the cruiser pulled away with her inside, kicking and screaming, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. She had tried to bury me with her debts, but the truth had buried her instead. And in the eyes of every neighbor watching, the reign of Karen was over. Yet the story didn't end there. What investigators uncovered next would shock us all, showing just how deep her fraud went, and how many lives she had tried to ruin to cover her tracks. The night after Karen was hauled off my porch in cuffs, the neighborhood hummed with an energy I hadn't felt in years. Groups of people stood in driveways whispering, trading stories, connecting dots. For the first time, the fear that had always kept them quiet was gone, replaced by something stronger, anger mixed with relief. Everyone had suspected Karen of bending the rules for her own gain, but now they had seen her lies exposed right there under the flashing red and blue lights. The county prosecutor wasted no time building a case. Within 2 weeks, subpoenas landed on Karen's doorstep, followed by investigators carting boxes of HOA files out of her home office. The deeper they dug, the uglier it got. It turned out Karen hadn't just tried to pin her unpaid bills on mesh, had been funneling all kinds of personal expenses through the HOA water bills, landscaping costs, even credit card debt from luxury vacations. She had disguised them as community projects, then used the HOA account to cover her tracks. And when money ran short, she tried to offload the debts onto homeowners by inventing new fees and fines. I'll never forget the town hall meeting where the auditors revealed the truth. The rec center was packed wall to wall, neighbors sitting shoulder to shoulder, their faces tense. On the projector screen, the auditor displayed line items from HOA budgets. Beautification fee $3,200, supposedly for new flowers around the community entrance. But the receipt showed the payment went to a high-end spa downtown. Another charge, streetlight upgrade $7,500, was traced directly to a contractor who never existed. And the biggest shock, community retention pond maintenance $12,000. The money had gone straight into Karen's personal account. The room exploded in outrage. People shouted, fists slammed against chairs. "She stole from us?" one neighbor cried. Another yelled, "She made me pay extra for that tree trimming, was that a lie too?" It was chaos, but it was righteous chaos. Years of frustration poured out like a flood, finally breaking the dam. And right there, I realized Karen's downfall wasn't just about me or my so-called unpaid bills. It was about everyone she had cheated, intimidated, and humiliated under her fake authority. This was bigger than one fight, it was justice for an entire neighborhood. When the trial began, it drew attention far beyond our little community. Local news crews parked outside the courthouse, cameras rolling every time Karen waddled in. Her wrists shackled, her once gaudy blouses replaced by prison orange. She still tried to hold her head high, still tried to flash that old smirk, but you could see it in her eyes, the panic, the desperation of a bully who finally realized her kingdom was made of paper. The prosecution presented the case with brutal precision. They showed the jury the false bills Karen had filed under my name, the video of her smugly declaring my guilt, and the officers pointing out the account numbers tied to her own address. Then they widened the scope, showing bank statements, forged invoices, and testimony from contractors who said Karen had demanded kickbacks in exchange for HOA contracts. And then came the twist none of us saw coming. Midway through the trial, one of Karen's closest allies on the board, a tall, wiry man named Frank, took the stand. For years he had been her shadow, always backing her up at meetings, always nodding when she threatened fines. But under oath, with sweat dripping from his brow, he broke. "She made us sign off on fake charges," he confessed. "She said if we didn't, she'd ruin us, fine us until we lost our homes. I went along with it because I was afraid. But she orchestrated everything. Every lie, every scam, it all came from her." The jury leaned forward, spellbound. The gallery erupted in whispers. Even the judge looked grim, as though the corruption went deeper than he had expected. Frank's testimony wasn't just a betrayal, it was the final nail in Karen's coffin. When Karen took the stand, she tried to salvage her image. She ranted about ungrateful neighbors, claimed I had forged evidence against her, claimed the county was conspiring to strip her of power. But the video of her pointing at me on my porch, waving that hammer-thick stack of false bills and demanding my arrest, played on the big screen behind her. Her own words sealed her fate. The jury deliberated less than an hour. Guilty on every count. Fraud, forgery, filing false police reports, misappropriation of funds, harassment. The sentencing was a moment I'll never forget. The courtroom was silent as the judge spoke, his voice like iron. Mrs. Whitmore, you abused the trust of your community. You weaponized your authority to conceal your own debts and attempted to destroy the reputation of an innocent man. You not only failed as a leader, you failed as a neighbor. For your crimes, this court sentences you to 3 years in state prison, restitution of all misappropriated funds, and a permanent ban from holding any position of community authority. The gavel cracked down. Karen screamed, her body shaking, her face turning scarlet. No, you can't do this. I built this community. I am the HOA, but no one listened. Deputies cuffed her, pulling her toward the exit as she shrieked like a banshee, her empire collapsing in real time. The gallery stood, clapping, cheering, even crying. Some hugged one another. Some filmed as she disappeared through the doors. Her final performance ended. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The HOA was dissolved, replaced by a volunteer neighborhood council that actually listened to residents. Fees dropped, property values rose, and the tension that had poisoned the air vanished. For the first time, people planted gardens without fear of fines. Kids played basketball without being scolded, and flags flew proudly from porches. As for me, I walked taller knowing I hadn't let Karen's lies define me. She had tried to bury me under her debts, but instead, she buried herself under the weight of her own greed. One evening, I sat on my porch as the sun painted the sky gold, neighbors laughing and grilling down the street. I pulled out the stack of fake bills Karen had once waved in my face and lit a match. The papers curled and blackened, sparks flying upward into the twilight. It wasn't vengeance, it was closure. And I wonder if you had been in my place, watching a neighbor try to drag your name through the mud with her own lies. Would you have stayed silent, hoping the storm would pass? Or would you have fought back, knowing the truth might tear down her entire empire? Because in the end, justice only comes when we choose to speak. So tell me, was I right to expose her, or do you believe I should have handled it differently?